vision of the filmmaker,
Sure.
but not make it obvious that there's strings in the airplane.
It is interesting because it is a problem. On that particular film, of course, we actually went two ways. For the restoration, we left in the strings holding up the plane so that in a theater you can basically see it the way it was presented. But for the Blu-ray, we took all that out. And here's one reason. One reason is that I asked his assistant, Leon Vitale, who I know you know very well. I said, I leaned over to him when we were screening the film, and I said, well, what do you think Stanley would do? And he said, oh, he'd take them out. You know? And subsequent to that, working with people like Terry Gilliam on one of his films, and a couple of other directors, it's almost the first thing out of their mouths is, can you take the strings out? And,
clean this up, yeah.
Right, and actually, because Blu-ray and HD are so unforgiving in terms of what you can see all kinds of detail, especially on the new large displays. Steven Spielberg, talking about Hook, our film, said we need to preserve the illusion. And in a theater, you kind of forgive those anomalies, but in your home, when you can see it so early. So we kind of do it both ways in a way.
No, it's true, because the theater experience is different. You have other people in the theater. You create the film, if it's working, creates a spell. And you have to go with that spell. You have to go with the dream of the film. At home, it's a different environment. You know, it's a different environment. You have to focus more in a way. So yeah, I think many filmmakers over the years would be retouching up some of the elements in their pictures. We just worked on we did a 4K
The Red Shoes.
The Red Shoes.
Yes,
Yeah,
it looks great, by the way.
We'll be showing here tonight in New York. It's absolutely beautiful. You know, I saw the picture in 1950. I guess my father took me to see it. I was 8 years old, and I was, you know, taken by the film. Of course, it became a major touchstone in my life. Got to know Michael Powell. Michael, of course, the screenmaker, my editor, and they were married. It took us years to get this restoration. And over the years, I've seen other prints, Technicolor IB prints of that film. Each one is slightly different. Each one is vivid and beautiful. But I must say, I never saw anything, and we monitored this very carefully with everyone in my pocket, and everybody was working on this. I never saw anything like this, because it's like experiencing the film completely for the first time again, especially if you're prone to this kind of picture and the nature of the work of Paul Pressburger. It's remarkable. There are things in it that I thought I knew. And it isn't just seeing detail in the eyes and that sort of thing. It creates a whole other emotional experience. And that's what's so important about these restorations, and eventually onto the Blu-ray. Even at home, seeing it on a big screen. I mean, other examples, I guess, are what? There's North by Northwest being done.
Sure.
Just, I think.
The Godfather was done.
So.
Yeah.
Sam was a Fox.
We only have a few minutes left, and I wanted to. There were a couple of questions.
Easy Rider.
From the audience. Oh yes, thank you for mentioning it. A couple of questions from the audience that I wanted to pass on in our closing moments here. One question was, do you have a favorite movie that you watch on Blu-ray, one that you watch over and over again? For someone who has thousands of films in their collection, I imagine that would be difficult to come up with.
It is hard, it is hard. I like The Searchers.
Searchers.
Blu-ray, that's quite beautiful.
Yeah.
It's quite beautiful.
Yeah.
It's one of those things, the Blu-ray makes it so, you know, don't forget that film shot in VistaVision.
Correct.
And the Blu-ray of that picture, there's something about it when you just put it on, just to check it out. You can't take it off.
Yeah.
It just keeps, there's something about the beauty of the landscape and the nature of the faces and the elegy that it is for John Ford's work that still holds up, and it's still very moving. There are others too, but that's the one that comes to mind.
One other question that we had was, when you were planning and designing a film that you're going to make, are you already at that point thinking about what you may or may not be planning to, on the home theater release, to include, or does that come after the process, after you've made the film, or are you actually thinking about it the whole time?
Well, I think now we have, it's automatic that there are electric press kits being done. There's a B-roll, they call it, that's being done by, although I don't like too many other crew, I don't like another crew on the set while I'm shooting, so the B-roll people are usually, I usually have them at a distance, and in scenes where I don't really have to concentrate to a certain extent anyway, as much. That means very technical things, or handling big crowds in a way. But that automatically goes on to the DVD. I think it's really interesting to have these other aspects, these other interviews of people. Watching a documentary recently on Jung, what was even more interesting than the documentary were these extraordinary interviews of the people who had worked with him. They were longer than the documentary. I just couldn't stop watching it. Because going into the supplement and that sort of thing, that's on a regular DVD. But on these things, we do think of what else you could put on that would be of interest for the average viewer, but also for the filmmaker, young filmmakers, references to other films. It's like, somebody referred to me to read a book called Iceland's Bell by Laxness, an Icelandic writer. And I picked up the book, and on the back of the book it said, like the usual, I'm approximating that, paraphrasing, like the usual Icelandic saga, this book goes off, etc., in this style. So I said, I can't read this without that. I better go to read some of the Icelandic sagas. So then and now I'm still off on these sagas. I haven't got to Iceland yet. But the same could be done. The same could be done with cinema, and we do have 100 years of cinema now. And I think when we were back in the early 60s, when we were sort of, quote, studying film, unquote, because you really can't do that if you sort of experience it, we were able to make up 30 years of film history, from 1930 to 1960 in American films. The Italian New Wave, Italian Neorealism, French, English, and British, the French, British, and Italian New Wave. So there was a way you could contain it. Silent films couldn't really, they weren't that available, silent films, to be seen in the original way. And so now, however, young people, starting out to want to express themselves with a moving image, have 100 years of cinema to catch up with. And sometimes these supplements could help direct them to certain kinds of films, certain writers, actors, producers, whatever.
That leads me into our closing moment here. And through the Film Foundation and your own personal efforts, of course, you've had great success through the years with the preservation and re-release of classic films on DVD, in theaters, of course, and now on Blu-ray. And we're all looking forward to more of that. So, in closing, are there any additional thoughts that you have or would like to express about this?
Well, I'm very excited and optimistic as not only as a filmmaker but also as a film lover and a viewer that Blu-ray will extend the life of a movie. I have a young child, a daughter, who's going to be 10. I show her older films between new films. She can't tell the difference, in a sense. There's no such thing as an old film. People like I've said this, just ones you haven't seen. We're talking also now the collector's choice on Sony. We have the one that came out in Film Noir. It's coming out first.
Hits the street today. Hits the street today.
Great.
Film Noir.
And then the Sam Fuller set was it last?
Came out just last week. Yes. Those are collaborations between our company and the Film Foundation, which is a great collaboration, yes.
That's right, yeah.
So thanks for the plug. We appreciate it.
That's the thing, too, you see.
Yeah,
I was going to say, for younger people, you show them a film, and if it's black and white, they may know that, okay, they didn't have color at the time, but after 3 or 4 minutes, they get into it.
Anybody who complains to me about black and white, I say, have you not seen, music videos? Half of them are black and white.
Yes.
Anyway, I'd like to thank you for taking the time out of your schedule today to join us here today, and we really appreciate you and what you had to say.